Hey everyone, welcome to Talent Experience Live. As we've done in the past couple of weeks, it is Mental Health Awareness Month here in the United States. And each week we want to start with just a minute of gentle mindfulness, right? If you haven't had a minute to yourself today, if you're having a difficult week, if you're having a heavy week, we want to just take some time to do that. And I also really want to acknowledge all the lives lost in Texas this week. As a content creator, as a marketer, it's very hard to hop on each week and just create content, right? And get in front of the camera and act like nothing is happening as the world continues to spin. And these unfathomable acts continue to occur. So I won't jump on my own personal soapbox, right? But let's just take a moment. Let's be still. Let's be human. And then we'll have a great show. And with that, welcome to Talent Experience Live. As I like to say, this is the greatest show on the internet, the place to be every week. If you're a recruiter, sourcer, talent marketer, or talent manager, let's kick things off.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go. Talent Experience Live. We're covering everything that you need to know in talent experience.
People applying for new positions is like the cherry on top.
With the technology to attract talent.
Recruiters always know their best talent.
The AI just learned to use that information.
Inclusion efforts across the organization.
Tell me what it's like to work through associate story.
Interviews with leaders in the industry. Talk about what's new in HR tech. What are the hot topics? We're here every week, folks. Weekly look at the latest and greatest topics in HR. If you're just joining us, we go live every Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Be sure to like, subscribe, and get notified so that you never miss a beat. I'm your host, Tom Tates, and this is Talent Experience Live. It's proudly brought to you by the team here at Phenom. If you're not familiar with Phenom, our purpose is to help 1 billion people find the right job. That's not a typo. It is a true billion, and our Talent Experience platform helps candidates find the right fit faster, employees evolve in their current role and beyond. It helps recruiters achieve some of that next level productivity and efficiency, and it helps managers build better teams with data, analytics, and automation. All of this is powered by super slick artificial intelligence and machine learning. If you want to learn anything about this, head on over to phenom.com and just click the button to learn more, have a conversation. We love talking about this. We love exploring challenges with our clients and prospective clients and figuring out, there is no one size fits all solution. So figuring out where and how we can help. I just want to give a shout out to everyone in the chats. Let me know who you are, where you're from, what you do. It's a good opportunity to connect, to network. Definitely love to see that. Also want to give a shout out to our executive producer, Patrizia Chupa. This is her last show with us. She's been incredible. She's been an incredible asset to the show. She's done such an amazing job connecting with guests, preparing for shows, so much behind the scenes. So we wish her well. And the show will go on for sure. But super excited to continue this one. So I wanted to give a shout out to our third winner of our Mindfulness Meditation app giveaway that we're hosting this month. Our winner this week is Jarrett Reyna. So Jarrett, we will reach out to you. Congratulations. We'll reach out on LinkedIn. We will hook you up with your prize, which is going to be an annual premium subscription to the Calm Meditation app. I know it's not much, but it's just a little something that we've been doing each week as we've been celebrating mental health awareness. It's also Military Appreciation Month. So that's why we are bringing to you kind of a different kind of show this episode. We're doing a bit of a host swap with fellow content creators, Bo and Luke. from the Bo and Luke show. Luke Carignan, he's been on a couple episodes before. He's a friend of the show. And they have an amazing interview with Mike Barger. So we're going to be playing that interview. We're going to kick things off first with an intro that I cut with Luke. We will definitely be in the comments. Let me know. And yeah, shout out in the comments. We'll be here. Even though this is live, we want to hear from you. So let us know in the comments who you are, where you're from, if you got any awesome plans this weekend. And let's just jump right into this intro that I cut with Luke. Welcome back, everyone. I am super excited. I am joined by friend of the show, Luke Carignan. Luke, you've been on a couple episodes now, so you are in the 3-timers club, maybe even the 4-timers club at this point. Doesn't even matter.
Shocked you keep having me back, but I'll take it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You've been an amazing guest. We've been excited to partner with you. You're here on the sales team at Phenom. So you are sales director. Am I right there?
Yep, you got it.
Yeah. So joined by your co-host, Bo, you have your own show, which is the Bo and Luke show, right? Which is a personal and professional growth podcast. And, just being a fan of your show, listening in, going to the website, it seems like your mantra is be better, know better, do better.
That's right.
Which is pretty awesome, right? So when did you start the show? You started in 2020, right?
Yeah, we started it pre-pandemic, right before the pandemic. Bo, my co-host, actually came out with a book called From the Battlefield to the White House to the Boardroom. And so it was his idea. We had been talking and throwing around some ideas, and he said, I'd really love to promote this book. Maybe we can do a podcast. And we knew nothing. We ordered like two $40 microphones off Amazon. And we're like, I don't even know if this recording will ever see the light of day. But we started, and then we just never stopped. And here we are, like a couple years later, 100 episodes in. It's great.
I know, it's awesome. You have over 100 episodes in the can. So if anybody out there is interested, you can subscribe, check them out. You can check out the full archive on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever your favorite podcast catcher is these days. I definitely encourage you to do that. So Luke and I are going to keep this short because we have a pretty lengthy episode. We have a really great episode that we're going to play. This is an interview that Luke and his co-host Bo did with Mike Barger. And Mike is the executive director of strategy and academic innovation at the Stephen M. Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan. That's a mouthful. I won't have to say that again, but more exciting than that, maybe more exciting than that. He is the co-founder of JetBlue, which is amazing, right? And former U.S. Navy Top Gun pilot and chief instructor, which is awesome. And as of the time of this airing, the new Top Gun movie comes out tomorrow.
Yes,
which is amazing. I'm assuming you have your tickets.
I'm going. I got my tickets.
You'll be there. So excited for that as well too. And Mike, Luke, and Bo, they're going to break down some actionable tips for both job seekers and employers to help veterans find the right job. So this is the first of a few collaborative interviews that we plan to do with Bo and Luke. And before we roll the clip, though, I just want to talk about why are we doing this series? So Luke, you came to me a few months ago, and you were really fired up with an idea to partner together. And I remember the call that we had. It wasn't even about the content. It wasn't even about creating the content. It was about a number. It was about the number 22, right?
That's right.
22. So what does that number mean to you, Luke?
So yeah, the number 22, unfortunately, it refers to 22 veteran suicides a day, which is an absolutely unacceptable number that we have, and Bo being from his military background, we've had a lot of military guests. We've tried to dig into this quite a bit and ask the question, why? Why are we failing our veterans so much just as a society? And what the answer that keeps popping up, Tom, is that they've had an unsuccessful transition from the military life to the civilian life. And there's many factors behind that, like when they transfer out, they have a family. They have, you talk about their family that they actually have, their personal family. Think about this. They just lost a work family where they were spending 24 hours a day with someone, with their brothers who they had their back, that, that they had that ridiculously close bond to, that I'm sure a lot of people that aren't familiar with the military might, never have that type of bond and that, reliance upon that community, usually for 4 years straight. So what happens is they transition out of the military, and this is that very, very sensitive time. And a lot of the reasons that tie back to this is an unsuccessful transition when they enter into the civilian world. Number one, finding a job where your skills that you learned in the military transfer really well over to that is difficult. I know everybody says that they like want to give veterans a shot, but when it comes down to brass tacks, we're just not as effective about it as a society
Sure.
as we really could be. And, my grandpa used to have a saying, and he said, when, poverty walks in the door, love flies out the window. And you have to think about that when you're transitioning out of the military, whether you have your family, kids, wife, might ever, whatever you have going on, if you can't connect the dots to, really have that successful civilian career in a job, it really hurts the veteran, it hurts their family. And on top of that, when they're going through those challenges, they just lost that community that I mentioned
Sure.
at the beginning that they've been relying on for so long. So that really started this up. And I'm really big into work-life integration, I call it, so I sell to healthcare organizations. We have Phenom with the military skills translator.
Yep.
We have some of the biggest, best logos that we're fortunate enough to partner with at Phenom. And then the podcast side of it, I just really found myself in a position to say, you know what, if we can create more awareness around this, help even one person, hopefully a lot more, to reduce that number, it's the right thing to do as a society. And it got me all fired up. And that's why I came to you with it.
I love it. And our purpose at Phenom obviously is to help 1 billion people find the right job, but this goes so much further than that, right? It goes beyond that. It really truly is. When you describe that to me, even just thinking about trying to fathom the number 22 a day, 22 lives a day, it is absolutely crazy. And when you think about it, it's a life or death matter, right?
Yeah.
And we have to get this right. And it's so much more than just creating that landing page on your career site that speaks to veterans, right? There's so much more that we can do, that we should do to really support them. So as we head into Memorial Day weekend here in the United States, as we cap off Military Appreciation Month, as we cap off Mental Health Awareness Month, which was also in May, right? All of these things kind of are colliding. Nice.
Yes.
I'm recording something. Okay, I'll be right back. I'm sure you're watching as well. Thank you, Bo. And thank you, Mike. So let's, without any further ado, just roll this clip. And everyone, please enjoy this interview.
Bo and Luke Nation, welcome to another episode of the Bo and Luke Show. Repeat guest alert. We are honored to have Mike Barger back on the show. And if you didn't catch Mike's first episode, allow me to catch you up and enlighten you a little bit. He's basically everything everyone aspires to be in life. So right now, he's executive director at Michigan Ross Business School and clinical assistant professor. He was co-founder and SVP over at JetBlue Airways, huge, former Navy aviator, and get this, former chief instructor at TOPGUN. How freaking cool is that? He also has, if you didn't catch the last episode, just a unique ability to take complex problems and put them in the most simplistic terms, where I'm like, when he's talking, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can totally do that. And that doesn't sound that hard. So Mike, pleasure to have you back on the show. How have you been?
Luke, great to be back. Been well. We've been busy at Michigan Ross, wrapping up a school year, and got a course running over the summer in crisis leadership, and continue to teach lots of entrepreneurship to both undergrads and grads at Michigan. And I'm hoping that our guests today are interested in hearing a little bit about what life in the business world might be like, having spent some time in the military. So looking forward to the conversation.
We're super glad to have you here. And, we're celebrating Military Appreciation Month. It's a big thing. So we wanted to have you on because, a lot of companies out there and veterans, the whole goal of what we're trying to do here is focus on the veteran transition into the civilian world, making that more successful for veterans and their families. But then also where you can shed some great light here is what can the businesses do to meet them in the middle and have it, us all take the responsibility, just as a nation to get this done. So your perspective is going to be super helpful on here, and listeners as well. So I just went through Mike Barger. Obviously, we have Bo Brabo, who's the co-host, who you know well. Bo is in the military for 20 years at the White House. So these guys have, walked the walk they've been there. They have friends that have gone through this. So your unique perspective is going to be really cool here. So to kick it off, I'm just going to ask a question to both of you. What do you see in your experience is the biggest barrier or biggest challenge when veterans are transitioning into the civilian world? Just open-ended question.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. So just for some context, so I was in the Navy for 13 years. I was an aviator the whole time. So went to flight school in Texas. I was an officer school guy. So when Aviation Officer Candidate School was still in Pensacola, I did that. And then training in Texas, and then got to fly F-18s on the East Coast and did that for 13 years. I loved my time in the service. I found the teamwork, the esprit de corps, the camaraderie, all of those things just were spectacular. Those are all things that folks will find are absent out of the military. You've got to kind of figure that out on your own. So we'll come back to that later on. I was fortunate enough as I was making my transition out of the military. And the reason I left was basically just some life priority changes. Loved my time in, loved what I was doing. Things had gone pretty well for me. I think as a 25-year-old single person flying fighters off aircraft carriers is about as cool as it gets. When you're a 35-year-old married, with some children, packing the sea bag, not quite as much fun. So for me, it wasn't that I was, unhappy with my career or what I was doing. It was just my life priorities changed a little bit. And so for folks that are kind of grappling with the, what do I do? How do I make the decision? I mean, my advice is start with the things that are most important to you. Don't leave something because you don't like it or chase something because you think you might. I would take a step back and spend some time thinking about priorities. Now, I was lucky enough as I was discovering kind of some priorities that had changed for me, that my brother, Dave, who happened to have been in the airline business for, about 20 years, approached me as I was thinking about what to do next with this opportunity to become part of the startup team at JetBlue. And so I didn't have the kind of the anxiety or all of the question marks about what am I going to do when I leave the service, because I already had, something that was there. But I hope today in the program, we can talk a little bit about, okay, so what was that like? And then what would you have done if you hadn't had something sitting there waiting for you? What would you be thinking about? But back to your question, Luke, I would say the kind of the biggest kind of challenge, I think, is that folks are focused on the whether to stay in, whether to get out question, rather than okay, what are the most important things to me right now? What do I want to accomplish? What do I want to do? Is making money the most important? Is living in an area? Is my family most important? People have obligations to, aging parents or those kinds of things. So I would start there with what is it that I really am making important in my life right now?
How big of a role do you think the job in the company that the veteran joins after their transition, how big of a role do you think that plays in the successful transition?
I don't know that I would say a particular job. I would say that my advice for anyone starting to look out of the military into the the private sector is that they find an organization that speaks to kind of who they are as a person, that they're called. This is something Bo could talk to up and down all day, right? Find a place that feels like the place that you should be, right? Get a sense of the leadership team, what's important to the organization, what do they value, right? How do they do business? How does that align with how, you want to be thought of, as a business person? That's a really good place to start. So my advice to people in the transition now is there are literally millions of jobs available out there. So this is a truly unique time for veterans, because you could get a job from the local mini mart at, minimum wage to, manager, and even, some senior manager jobs out there at organizations because of their leadership experience. So they've got a lot of opportunity, but they want to make sure that they kind of take advantage of an opportunity that kind of speaks to who they are as a person and what their priorities are. Bo, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on that, because this is right in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, no, I think you, the first topic about ensuring that you consider what your priorities are, I think that one is paramount. I didn't do that. And it's interesting because in my role, even doing HR in the military, I was processing retirement applications. I was processing people and getting them out when they were ready to transition. And I don't remember too many conversations, and we're talking with hundreds of people, about someone saying, this is where my priorities are now. This is what I'm really kind of looking at, and here's why. It really did go back to that question of, do I want to stay in? Do I want to get out? Do I want to stay in? Do I want to get out? I mean, they just teeter back and forth with that, and then eventually, they want to get out, or and they leave, and you don't hear a lot about the priorities. And I think that is super important, because when those priorities aren't straight, even if you feel like you have a successful transition, or you do find a job that you feel like this is going to be a good fit, or the company's going to be a good fit, you may not stay long, because you haven't figured out those priorities, and then you're on to the next chapter, right? And you write these multiple chapters after you transition till you finally settle into the, hey, you know what? I should probably think about what's important to me, my family, whatever the case might be. And then you flow into whatever that is. And I think that's pretty common for a lot of military folks, that you don't go through that process, and you end up in multiple, the first 5, 6, 7 years, you may end up in 5, 6, 7 different jobs, different roles, until you settle into what you actually want to do.
Yeah. So let me speak to that for a minute, Luke, if I can kind of take over the show here for a moment.
Oh, please. It's Mike Barger show now.
Good. So one of my collateral responsibilities at Ross in the 5 years I've been here has been running our career office. And so I've been pretty close to, just employment statistics and what we're seeing in the workforce. And I think, connected, Luke, to your question about biggest kind of challenges, because I do think that people generally feel like whatever choice they make for that next career is like a lifelong decision. And I don't think people should think about it that way. Mm-hmm. The employment statistics today. So here's what I'm telling undergrads. So for those of you in the audience that are, maybe you've stayed in longer than, your kind of minimum obligation. So you feel like you're maybe a little bit further along in your career, but for you that have done a short tour out of high school or something, and now you're thinking about, do I go to school? What do I do next? What we're telling our undergrads at Michigan Ross now is that the employment data says, first of all, you are going to be in the workforce for close to 60 years, which is longer than any other kind of workers have ever thought about being in the workforce. Now, before you freak out on that 60-year number, it's because there are so many cool, unique opportunities to do things that are really exciting. And because old folks like Bo and I, we don't think about kind of retiring at 60 and sitting on the back porch and, watching the lawn grow like our parents do, or like we think about sometimes. Mm-hmm. You all are thinking about staying engaged, doing things interesting and cool and meaningful pretty much for your entire life. So think about the next step in your professional career as just another step along this really long journey. The second interesting data point is that what Gartner is saying now, they're a group that kind of watches employment statistics, is that the average career now, where, my parents, Bo and Luke's parents, they went into the workforce thinking about that one job that they were going to have for their entire life. I am now on job number 4. So for a late baby boomer generation kind of person, that's quite a few careers for someone in my age group. What Gartner says now is that you all are going to have a new career every 4.5 years on average. And what that means is that every 4 to 5 years, you are going to discover that this thing that you're doing now is either I've done it and I'm done and I'm ready to move on, or my priorities have changed, or I'm ready for the next cool thing. but you are going to move from career to career 6, 8, 10, 12 times in your professional life. And there is a very good chance that none of those 12 are going to be remotely related to each other. You're just going to pivot from this to that, not because you can't make up your mind or because you're kind of can't decide something. It's just that's the way the world of work is moving. So I say all of that. This is all said without a period, by the way, Luke and Bo. So I'm impressed with that. I can build really long run-on sentences. Is that if people think about the next step in their professional career, it's one step of many over 40, 50, 60 more years of work, because that work's going to be cool. And it's one step to build some skills and learn some things about the workplace that they may or may not use in their next career, which is not that far down the road. So again, coming back to just some good words of advice, think about this next step, not as a 40 or 50 year step, but think about it as a 5-year step. What is the thing that I want to get done that's important to me over the next 3 to 5 years? And then what are the best ways to go about doing that? Because 5 years from now, I'm going to have a whole new set of opportunities that I might not even be able to imagine now.
I think, Luke, that right there is probably the most critical thing when we think about why we're doing this series. One of the reasons we're doing this series and partnering with Phenom is the focus on 22 veteran suicides a day, because you lose hope, right? And you just think it's in that first 12 months after transition, study shows those are the highest times where suicide is contemplated, because chaos is happening. They don't know what's going to happen. But if you can, the more types of data that you hear about, the more people you hear from, like Mike, who have insights to this, just the mindset of knowing that it's, the odds are way in your favor that this is going to change, right? So even if you get out and you hate what you're doing, guess what? Odds are that's not going to stay like that. It's just not. The world is changing. The world of work is changing. There's going to be opportunity to do cool things. So just, keep your hope up, keep it alive, and know that there's people out there that can help point you in the right direction. I think that's fantastic.
So true.
I think it's also really important to keep that in mind when you are thinking about those short-term priorities. So I know it's really easy to be in the military thinking, okay, so I know what I've been paid, monthly the last 4 years or 10 years or however long you've been in. My impression is everybody outside's getting paid a ton more. I want to go out, make a lot of money, or start my own business or whatever. I would say that's all, those are all really cool aspirations. But if you are, if you've got some debt you've got to take care of, if you've got some parents you need to take care of, you've got family you need to take care of, if that's the most important priority to you, then find something to do that lets you deal with that priority first, knowing that you're going to have 6, 8, 10 more career shots after that. So don't feel like the weight of the world's on your shoulders to solve everything right now. Take care of the most important things, and you'll find that the opportunities will be everywhere.
Listeners, I told you he makes complex things seem simple. We got this is like just cut the cloth to fit the pattern at that time. And you're so right. Every 4.5 years, you're spot on. I mean, here I am at almost 40 years old, starting a podcast. If you would have told me that when I was in my early 20s, I would have said, what the hell is a podcast? Because it doesn't even exist yet back then.
Right.
So it's crazy. The smartphone didn't even exist back then. And now here we are changing the career trajectory. I want to bring up a topic as well that I think we can dig into. I think you're both going to love this topic because it's right up your wheelhouse. But I think there's accountability for finding jobs both on the veteran side and the company, the organization side. And I want your take on this. So the philosophy, and we've all heard it, Mike, I'm sure you teach, well, maybe you don't teach us, but I'm sure you do. We've all heard hire for culture, train for skills.
Yeah.
Like, do you teach that in Michigan? Is that a thing, or maybe not? If you
well, so obviously we are trying to teach a set of skills that allow, our graduates to deal with kind of the ambiguity of business. It seems like every time Bo and I get together to talk about something, what comes up in our conversation is the fact that the business world is just like the military world and its craziness, right? It's volatility and uncertainty and complexity and ambiguity, the whole VUCA thing that that we talk about all the time. And so what colleges and universities tend to be focusing on more now is how do we build a set of skills in our graduates that allow them to deal with that kind of VUCA environment that they're going to find themselves in. And so I think that while we don't kind of teach that the statement that you just shared, we do make it clear to students that we are not trying to deliver the skills for them to step in day one on a new job and be an expert at everything. We're teaching a set of skills that will help them kind of deal with the messiness of what the business world is. But like I said earlier, anywhere you go, it's going to take some time for you to settle into what the company is and what it's trying to do and the role you play and the responsibilities that you have. And I think the more you feel like what your teammates are collectively trying to accomplish, the more that feels like it kind of fits what you want to accomplish, the easier it is to be a great teammate and to learn faster and deliver value faster. And so, maybe that's a long way of agreeing with you there, Luke, that I think too many people kind of think more about the role specifics rather than stepping back and thinking about the organization that I'm about to join and represent. And maybe a good litmus test is, hey, if I join this company, do I want to wear the hat with the logo on it or the shirt with the logo on it? Do I want to be an ambassador for the brand? And if the answer is I'm not so sure, then I would say it's probably worth stepping back and thinking about it a little bit.
Yeah.
I agree.
I agree. Another good point though there, Luke.
Go ahead.
Another great point there. The key there, I think, and I think some military members forget it when they transition. The key there, I think one of the things Mike's talking about is adaptability, right? And being able to adapt to the environment, this new environment that you're stepping into. Well, for service members, you learn that really well because it's new to you, everything's new to you. And every time you change an assignment, it's new to you. And leader after leader after leader will tell you, just kind of stay low, learn what this organization is about, listen, follow. And then when you're ingrained and you're part of the organization, then you kind of like start to rise up. You have a voice because you've adapted to that environment. I think that's a key point, especially during transition, to remember, right, that you're the new person in the organization. Even if you're lucky and 2 or 3% of that company is also a veteran and have served, which they may not have, it's good just to get your lay of the land, right? Adapt, learn what this organization is about, follow the leadership that's there. And, a few months in, you're going to have a much better view. And that way you're not getting frustrated because, hey, this first few months, I need to just kind of see what this is all about, figure out the company, figure out the team that I'm on, the people I work with, before I start trying to take charge of things, and all of a sudden you're in lesson.
Yeah. Well, and let me tell you, let me extrapolate this a little bit. So here's the challenge that I see that's happening every day right now. And I think both sides own the problem. Really excited for your feedback on this. But if we look at that, we say, all right, hire for culture, train for skills. That just sounds so good, doesn't it? It sounds obvious. It's simple. I can tell you that is not happening at all in companies today. It is not. What's really happening is a veteran goes and they apply to this job, and the hiring manager looks at them and say, oh, they don't have the skills that I'm looking for, and they pass. Now, getting back to what I said before, that I really do believe that both sides own the problem. If we dissect that statement and we say, hire for culture, train for skills, there is no better professional trainee in the world than a veteran. 99% of their job has been training and being really good at it. So if you want to stick to that statement and have success, number one, you already have that. Where I say that both sides own the problem is I think that organizations have done a really bad job at holding themselves and their hiring managers accountable to sticking to a process like that. And on the flip side, if we want to talk about accountability on the veterans as well, I think they need to do a better job at meeting in the middle and saying that to the organizations, because it can't just be a one-sided conversation. I do believe most people in this world are good They do want to do the right thing. They're already thinking this. But if the veteran isn't controlling that portion of the conversation and leading with that, let's call it what it is. It's an amazing thing and a big advantage compared to somebody that just partied 4 years in college. Not saying that that's not bad. Shout out to Michigan. But what are your thoughts on that? Because I do feel like that challenge is happening every day today, and it sounds like a simple fix.
Well, let me start with and maybe I shouldn't say this. This is a little dirty little secret behind the scene here, is that I don't know that I have ever met somebody doing the exact job that was described on the job description.
Fair.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen anymore, right? And
No.
so whether it's because the organization didn't really know how to describe the job, or whether it's back to this VUCA concept that Bo and I talk about all the time, is that the job just has to evolve and morph and change because the world is changing around us. The reality is that these hiring managers are looking at a kind of a defined job description, and the reality is the person they're hiring isn't really going to do things like it says on that sheet. So there's already a little bit of a disconnect between, do you have the skills for this job, and, oh, by the way, this job that we're talking about isn't really going to be what it says on this sheet. So that's a problem. The second dirty little secret is not so secret anymore, is that back to Gartner again, the half-life of a skill these days is shorter than it's ever been. They suggest that 5 years or so is about the maximum half-life of a skill, which basically means that employers are going to have to continuously reskill their people to be effective, which means their people need to be able to be reskilled to be effective. So if I were a military veteran going to an interview talking about what value I bring to the table, a couple of statistics in my pocket, like I recognize that the job that you're interviewing for me for is probably going to evolve over time. I also recognize that just the pace of business today, just like the military, is things are changing all the time. All I've done for the last 4 years or 6 years or 8 years or 10 years is adapt to changing environments and job requirements and changing military and worldview. And so I feel like I am the very best candidate that you can find who will adapt to whatever set of conditions you kind of put me in front of. And if I were a recruiter and heard somebody say that, we'd be talking about when the orientation was coming up.
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can give you a perfect real. Go ahead, Luke.
No, jump in.
I think give you a perfect real life example happening today. So my oldest daughter was an officer in the Army. She separated she transitioned in mid 2020, and we all know that she came on and she was helping doing social media for our podcast. Well, in doing the social media for our podcast, here's this new technology available for social media content creation and so forth in this platform called Canva. Well, so she'd never used it before, but she's adaptable, she's trainable, right? She jumped right in and she starts using it, figuring out how to do it. And then over time, this particular piece of technology starts advancing. Not just you do PDF, you can do slide presentations, you can do all this different type of cool stuff, and their graphics are amazing. And now she's working, and she's been working for almost 2 years now. She's a communications director supporting an undersecretary of defense at the Pentagon, right? This is a political appointee. And he comes in when the administration changes. So he's a civilian coming into the government world. And here are these presentations that my daughter has kind of massaged with her own account in Canva. And he loves it. He's like, man, we should all be using this platform, right? And it's one of those things. It's like, but the government is on PowerPoint. It's like, so she keeps getting tagged, and she loves it because she's the one who's adaptable. She's that service member who knows all this, who's just been doing this. Like, she knows how to roll with the punches and continue to learn and build those skills. So she does that. Eventually, you would think the organization would catch up and say, okay, like, this is what everybody wants. Maybe we can help train some other people, But you're absolutely right. It's that trainability. It's like, you just present that in an interview, bam.
Yeah.
So I think you're right, Luke.
Yeah, and I think, Luke, it'd be interesting for the recruiters and HR people that listen to this podcast to really be taking a critical look at the way that they are finding people with the skills that they really need. And I think this idea of, not only experienced adaptability, but a real willingness to kind of lean in and do whatever it takes to learn whatever needs to be learned to do a good job, which is something that, in my experience, folks that haven't come from a military background just don't seem to have that gene as dialed up as someone that does come from the military. And I don't care what rating or sector or part of the military you were in, all of us have had to endure, assignments that were bigger than the resources that we had, that required more people than we had, that required, better tools than we had, but we just figured out ways to get it done. And those kind of people are worth, they're priceless. And that is what recruiters are looking for. They might think that they're looking for the perfect match of the job description, but the reality is what they're looking for is someone that is going to commit themselves 100% to the organization, that are going to lean in, that are going to be a sponge, that are going to become the best teammates. And there's a little bit of a curse with that, because I do find that military folks do tend to get the lion's share of the assignments, the spot tasking, because they do tend to volunteer for things or be in the right place at the right time. I don't know. I thought we taught people not to volunteer for things in the military, but I would say if that's what you learned, then change your mind, because you want to be volunteering for stuff. You just want to be a great teammate.
Right.
And I can assure you, wherever you end up, if you are the kind of person that's putting in the time, that is really committed to doing good work, committed to learning, committed to being a good teammate, the biggest challenge you're going to have is the organization's going to want you to do more stuff, because you're going to be such a great, team player. So you've learned a lot in your time in the military to be able to be a valuable contributor to any organization. So be picky, find something that fits you.
I love it. And that's going to help for the long term. That's going to help with the veteran, their families, and everyone around them. Yep. So to bring us home, folks, I won't take up too much more time, but I want to, there's a myth out there in corporations that if you want to put together a military program or an initiative, it's a lot of work. You need to put together content pages and have a division and all of this and that. Can you talk about how simple it is, just even on a daily basis, to say, hey, today I'm going to try to move the ball forward a little bit? First question, can you as a civilian, can you contact the military and say you're interested in hiring veterans? Is that a thing? It seems easier than it really is.
Well, Bo, feel free to lean in here, but my understanding is that there are so many kind of support resources out there in the military community trying to facilitate a healthier transition from military to kind of the civilian world, is that if you really wanted to build some sort of a program, I think in 15 minutes with a couple of emails and a couple of phone calls, you would be shocked at how much support there is out there to put something together. And if you can't figure out how to do that, find a veteran in your organization to say, hey, we've got a little project we're trying to work on here. Can you help us put together something? And it would really surprise me if that person didn't fall over themselves trying to get involved with that.
Yeah.
Right.
You're 100% right.
We tend to be pretty supportive of our own, when we're out. So, you'll get lots of help.
Right.
I love the way you worded that. Is that your experience too?
Ben? Yeah. Today, just put in any search engine, veteran support organization near me. Bam. you can have coffee with them this afternoon. It would be that fast and quick that you'd have somebody, because that's why they exist, right? They're trying, aside from the services themselves and the transition programs, the actual number of veteran support organizations, nonprofits that exist continues to grow, and they're spread throughout the entire country. So if a company actually wants to take action on what you just said, Luke, it would literally be that simple. And you can talk to as many as you want to find the one that fits your company.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd also say, Luke, that you kind of suggested the kind of the urban legend here. I would say don't fall victim to the urban legend. I would find, if I were a company that didn't have a veterans program, but I was thinking about it, I would do a quick search for companies that really hire veterans and give them a call. Go talk to someone in HR, talk to the head of HR and say, all right, to me straight, why is it that you are committed to veterans, and what hiring them? And then, don't sugarcoat it. What issues with veterans, right? What are the things that have come up that were either surprising or my kind of hiring veterans are really happy to talk about it with folks. They're happy to share. This is something. It's not a kind of a secret, a secret weapon. There are lots of veterans available. Call somebody that's committed to hiring them, and they will be and I'm really sure that they're going to work.
I love that. I do believe it's so easy for thinking. They just got to get out of their own way and do the Google search, send an email.
Yeah, and the checks and boxes that the military, that military service kind of assure you of. I mean, everyone in the military has gotten a kind of an indoctrination to teamwork and collaboration and that kind of thing. All of them have some level of technical training in something. So you have proven, demonstrated ability to learn technical skills. All of them have been kind of in ambiguous, volatile situations. So they all have that kind of experience. So I don't know. To me, that checks a lot of the boxes that I would be really most concerned about as an employer. And then it kind of comes down to, all right, culture fit, and you seem like a good fit for our organization. I don't know. Then it kind of becomes more of a partnership. The recruiter and the recruitee kind of come into agreement that, hey, it seems like we're a pretty good fit. You don't have to worry about me putting in the time. You don't have to worry about my ability to pick up whatever technical expertise you need to teach me to be good at the job. And if you're wondering if I've got the ability to deal with some ambiguity, which is kind of the big catchword out there in employers these days, is how well do you deal with ambiguity? Well, that's all we do in the military. So if you're looking for someone with some checks and boxes there, we got that. So I don't know. I think it's a really good time to be a vet looking at the business landscape. I think that the world is your oyster, if you will, and I think if you just approach it in kind of small pieces, just a step at a time, just like we do everything in the military, you'll be in pretty good shape.
Yep, I agree.
Love it. All right, for Bo and Mike, final thoughts before I bring us home here.
I would say, final thought. I know that many people leaving the military have an idea for a new business, or I want to work myself, or I've got the next widget that's going to change the world. And I think that's great, and I love the energy and the enthusiasm. What I would tell you is someone that left the military and then started an organization that at JetBlue that turned out to be pretty successful. What I tell you is that I had no idea how I did this. I understood leadership. I could 90 plane strike force. I come to the TOPGUN school for flight training in the Navy. But if you ask me, how to do business finance, or what marketing was all about, or how does the goods and services that we're creating at JetBlue meet the needs of the customers that we're trying to serve. All of that was a total mystery. So when I describe my time at JetBlue, I always call it my live MBA, because I learned so much doing that. But my advice, long road to a small house here, my advice for all of you thinking about starting your own business is that because you are going to have the opportunity to have 6, 8, 10, 12 careers, I think you would benefit greatly from spending a little bit of time in an organization that's already established to just get a little bit of a sense of what it means to produce a product, or lead a team in a business environment, or look at finances and marketing and the other kind of business functions, to put yourself in the best position 4 or 5 years down the road when you can start your own business with a better sense. So that would be my closing suggestion. And I don't want to squash anyone's aspirations or dreams of starting their own super business, but running a business is hard, and the super majority of startups fail very quickly. Raising money is not hard. Coming up with a product's not hard. But creating a business model that actually allows you to build a company and deliver, consistent value is really, really hard. So don't rush. If your idea is good, it'll still be there a little bit down the road. So get some experience first.
Yep. And I would piggyback on that. If you're, number one, take Mike's advice, but if you can't help yourself and you're going out there, I'm that guy. I've started my own business. I've learned over 6 years now with this business that we just finally got successful, Mike. My advice to young entrepreneurs is do not be creative with your business model at all. Whatever it is that you want to do, this already exists. Somebody's already making money at it. Reach out to them, ask them how they do it. Don't try to get cute. Don't try to get creative. Get good at the fundamentals and do that. You will save yourself so much heartache and money. The playbook already exists. Don't think that you can become the next Jeff Bezos, because, if you do, great, but most people fail instead of becoming Jeff. What are your final thoughts, Bo?
Yeah, no, I want to give a shout out to Phenom People, which is the company that we're doing this series with. It's a company that Luke works with. I was talking with the co-founder of Phenom several weeks ago on a call, and the first thing I did was thank him for their efforts as a company in developing the military skill translator tool that is part of their software package that runs the back end of applicant tracking systems for, 20% of the Fortune 500 companies and more. Because almost 10 years ago, when I was transitioning, being able to go to a job board and put in your MOS code, your AFSC, your rate, that did not exist. It just did not exist. And Phenom People has figured it out, so where you can go, and this is helping recruit, it's helping not just the candidate or the military member, it also helps the recruiters to ensure that they're not dismissing military folks because they don't know what they do, or they can't translate what they do. So you've got this piece of automation that's doing that. And this is not a sales pitch. This is just a real thing that's happening, and it's incredibly beneficial. You put in your MOS, your FSC, your rate, and it doesn't just tell you what the skills are. It actually pops the jobs up that are associated with the skills that you have that are available in that company. So you've got a leg up already in matching jobs, right, that you are going to be qualified for according to that company. So, it's such a different place to start than a decade ago. And I think that's incredible, and hats off to Phenom for taking that on and actually getting that, doing the do and getting it done. So, and thank you, Mike, so much for coming back to the Bo and Luke show.
Oh, my pleasure. This was great.
Yeah, couldn't be happier, guys. Your insight is amazing. Thank you for your sacrifice for the country, and both of you continue to serve. Look, here you are helping other fellow veterans in the time, and even if this episode just reaches one person, it helps out them and their family and their children. You're creating a ripple effect and helping people out. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. It's good to know you guys.
My pleasure. Good to be here.
Absolutely. Well, with that, Bo and Luke Nation, that's a wrap.